Hello viewers, within Gran Turismo 7 we have a brand new time trial, the Michelin Time Trial, Road Atlanta, Porsche 918. The prize is pretty cool. You get to go to the Gran Turismo World Finals in Barcelona in December. I'm going to be at the event as well, which probably actually makes the prize a bit worse. I'm just going to jump straight in, do a lap with no practice, so let's give this a go. And I'm expecting this to go horrifically wrong. This is quite a quick car, road car, so I'm guessing that it's got a lot of power, but the brakes are probably not as good as I would like. Let's take a look. Great start to the lap across the grass. This is going to be difficult, I think. This is a very technical circuit, Road Atlanta, in not the grippiest car. Well, actually, to be fair, it's not that bad. Well, invalidated the lap. Okay, so 18.2, invalidated though, first lap. I'm probably not going to win the competition with that time. So let's just try and get a clean lap here. I'm not very good at this, am I? No, Steve, you're not. Now, on the next attempt, I did manage to sort my line out. Well, kind of. It wasn't the best line at all. But it was a clean lap. And that's what counts here, guys. Coming down towards the final corner, which is actually very awkward in this car. And it's going to be a 16.9. Okay, that's my first clean lap, 16.9. And that is top 10,000 in the world. Goal time is a 16.3. I think I can do that, 0.6 improvement. And I predicted that I could get this done within one lap. I mean, how hard can it be just to drive around the track without going onto the grass? Clearly very difficult. And on my second attempt, I only managed to get to turn 2 before going onto the grass. So this really wasn't going to plan. I needed to adjust. Oh, goodness me. Before the laps even started, I've gone onto the grass this time. Now, can we finally do it? It can't be that difficult. This was certainly a frustrating test because this car is very powerful. It's got a lot of power, very fast. But in road cars, typically on this game, they have very long braking distances and they don't turn as well as, let's say, Group 3 cars. So you've got to adjust to that. Now, it did improve to a 16.7, going quite deep into the chicane again, but slightly better than the Ghost. And so this was going to be an improvement to at least a low 16. Let's see if we can get the final corner right. It's a little bit wide, and just as we come up to the line, this moment here, this exact moment you can see here, invalidated the lap as I've gone wide. Here's my horrified reaction. And boom, it was a 16.1, which was good enough for gold, except it was invalidated because of going wide. So that was deeply frustrating to invalidate the lap on the final millimetre of the lap. How about this attempt? This was actually a lot better. You see, getting the chicane a lot nicer, getting a much better exit. And this was about to be the lap, obviously with this final corner being done correctly. And thankfully it was 16.2. That took a lot longer than it really should have done. Okay, top 4,300, gold medal. Now, annoyingly, I can't watch the top time in the world. I think the highest time I can watch is the 10th place. So let's see what we can learn. This time is about 1.5 seconds quicker than me. I think it's going to be a case of better track limit use, aka the grass. Third gear for there. And just being smoother all round. Nice and tidy. Minimal. No fuss. This is where you can use the grass, I'm pretty sure. There, and there. Or maybe not so much there, actually. Right to the edge of the line. It's just very smooth. It's a very tidy lap, isn't it? This one I keep out-braking myself. Third gear he uses. This corner I hate. Second gear. Back to third. Okay. So there's definitely a lot of time for me to gain in those two corners. I mean, there is everywhere. if we're being honest, but especially in those two. And then the braking point for the chicane, this is so important. Just before the 300 board, which is pretty much where I was braking over that curb, third gear. Bringing it out over quite narrow to the right. This final corner is actually really difficult. A bit over the grass. 14.5. Great lap. Just looking at these times, I think realistically I should be getting inside like the top sort of 300. So we're looking at 115.5 or quicker. And I think that's got to be an aim here at the very minimum. But on this run, I found out something very important. As you can see here, we have a battery meter, because this car, the Porsche 918, is a hybrid, so you have battery deployment. And let's say, for example, on this very long back straight here at Road Atlanta, this battery is very important for top speed. And if we whip it forward to the 5th lap, take a look at the time delta. As you can see, I am quite a long way up on my best lap on this stint, which was a 116.5. As we head into turn 6, I'm about 8 tenths, 9 tenths, nearly a second up on a 16.5. So this could have been a 15.5 near enough. But as we drive onto the back straight out of turn 7, I quite quickly run out of battery. And as you can see by the time delta, it completely sinks away very quickly without any battery deployment, as do any hopes and aspirations of a good time on this lap. So as we head into the chicane, I mean, I drive the chicane really badly, it's got to be said, and I lose all of the time I gained, and it was very frustrating because the one lap where I actually drive pretty well, it was the lap where the battery runs out. Okay guys, you can only really do about 4 laps before the battery dies, so don't do more than 4 laps. So there's some advice for you. I mean, hopefully I can do the mistakes for you so that you don't have to do them, but I mean, this run was full of mistakes. Let me tell you, there were many retries. The retry button was getting hit a lot of times, more so than the apexes, which was not ideal at all. As we head down into the chicane, this was the bane of my life really. Just going wide on the chicane, braking a little bit too late. It was very difficult to get that chicane braking point dead right and really carry as much speed through there as possible. It was very difficult. Let's take a look at this lap. Following the Ghost, we know, I mean, I know I can do a 15. It's just a case of hooking up the lap together and not making that one mistake throughout the entirety of it. Road Atlanta is a fairly short lap, just over a minute, but it is quite technical and quite difficult, and therefore it's not easy to string together an entire lap. On this one though, you can see a 30.2 for the first split, which is okay, but it was definitely quicker than the Ghost, and so this was a definite opportunity to improve. Coming out of turn 7, lost a bit of time through 6 and 7, but still ahead of the Ghost, and that bodes well. I knew that I could afford to be somewhat conservative with my braking point here. I didn't have to really push it to the absolute limit. Braking just on the crest of the hill, going into that first apex, trying to carry the speed through. On the exit, we're still ahead of the Ghost, so this was going to be a good one, and this was actually going to be my fastest lap so far. Cutting the corner, it's going to be a 15.9, and look at that, just into the 15s. That moves me up 2.5% off the top 1,700, inside the 116s. But I think I need a bit of help, so I'm going to find the slowest, fastest Ghost I can find. This is actually quite annoying on Gran Turismo that so many of the times you can't use the Ghost for. Okay, let's go for this one. This guy's done a 15.4, half a second quicker than me, and I was hoping he'd be able to drag me along to a faster time. To this point in the time trial, I was using my own Ghost, my own personal best, and that can only take you so far. I always advocate that you kind of follow a slightly faster Ghost if you want to chip away at those tenths, and this time was 15.4, so half a second quicker, and as you can see I was keeping up with it pretty well on this occasion through the first split. With this left-hander, quite awkward, you really have to push the track limits on the exit. So 30.1 through that split, which is about as good as I was doing to this point. Through turns of 6 and 7, these are actually incredibly awkward corners, especially 7. It's not the easiest corner. I kept getting it wrong, but I was actually closer to the Ghost now than I was at the start of the lap, so I was actually quicker to the Ghost than the Ghost at this point in the lap. Braking a little bit late here, just going completely over that first apex, not the most ideal line, and you can see just how much time I lose because of that. So I knew really that the improvement had to come in the chicane. That's really where I was losing most of my time. I did improve though to a 15.7, so that's not such a bad thing for my first lap behind the new Ghost. How about this occasion? Once again, fairly close to the Ghost. A much better line through the chicane, but you see on the exit the Ghost just pulls away slightly, maybe by a car length or two down the hill. Through the final turn, it's going to be another improvement to a lower 15.73. So the small and incremental improvements were coming, and therefore it kind of validates the fact that, you know, following the Ghost was helping to some extent. Just having that reference point, turning the Ghost off at certain points in the lap, especially through this first sector, I think is quite difficult visually through this part of the track, and therefore you don't want your view obscured by the Ghost, and then turning it back on just to confirm my position relative to it. Through the chicane I wanted to turn it on this time just so I knew exactly where I was gaining and where I was losing, and it kind of confirmed that my exit speed was what I was suffering with. On this occasion though, having a better exit than before, and you can see here you have to run really wide on the exit. You almost sacrifice the next lap in order to get that, you know, final half a tenth on the exit of the final corner. You kind of have to like sacrifice the following lap in order to get your current lap good. So that's a 0.6. We are chipping away once again, still not a 0.4. And then the silly mistakes at the final corner, or sorry, the final chicane kept creeping in, which prompted this little rage out. Hopefully with that out of my system, it was time to get back on it. And it was time to get back on it in terms of making the same mistake again for the millionth time. So yes, super frustrating. This time, look at this, level with the Ghost. 56.9 through that split, which was about as good as I was doing. Quite deep, not carrying the best of speed through the chicane. And look at that, losing a couple of car lengths. It was super frustrating trying to get that right. I just could not, for the life of me, get it quite right. Through the final corner, another 0.6, an improvement again though. So we are moving in the right direction. But this lap was one where it all came together. As we followed the Ghost, we actually got a really good run onto the lap, which was still really crucial as well. That final corner here at Road Atlanta is kind of unusual. You really do have to maximise it before your lap, and then you kind of have to sacrifice it at the end of the lap to really get the most out of the beginning and the end of your lap. Now on this occasion, again, turning the Ghost off through this first sector, really trying to commit to these corners as best as possible without the visual distraction. And look at that, boom, much better run on the exit, 29.9 that time around, which was the lowest I'd seen, I think, to this point. Not carrying the speed through 6, but how about through 7, trying to get on the accelerator as early as possible in third gear for traction. And wow, look at that, for the first time cleanly ahead of the Ghost coming into the chicane. So I knew again I could be somewhat conservative, braking just on the crest of the hill, maybe a slight bit before, try to carry that speed through and just don't quite manage to do it. So releasing the brake a bit too late, that would be the main issue there. But this was going to be the best lap to this point, a 15.4. 268th in the world. I did beat the Ghost that I was just trying to beat there by half a tenth. But that's frustrating because there's more speed in that chicane. I probably lost 0.2. I was ahead of the Ghost quite clearly, so that could be a low 15. Let's follow this lap time, which is a 0.3. So yeah, my 15.4 Ghost was now beaten, so it was time to move on to a slightly quicker one. This one was a 15.3, a low 3, so a tenth and a half quicker than the previous Ghost. And with this new Ghost, it was time to try to chip away once again the tenths. I knew that a better time was possible. Not sure exactly how much more I could shave away, but A 0.4 was definitely there to be beaten if I could just hook the entire lap together. Definitely one of the more frustrating time trials that I've done, I would say, as I touched upon earlier, you know, the road car nature. Road cars definitely aren't my strength in this game, as I don't really play them enough. I should try to do them a lot more, as I tend to focus on Group 3, and that tends to be my focus, and I'm pretty good in those, but this is not my strength, and I do need to improve. And this lap is not going to be an improvement. Going through the final turn, 15.5, first lap against that Ghost was, you know, that's still a pretty good time. But then came the retries, as you can see once again. Many retries, including another rage out, where I took what can only be described as the wrong line through that corner, meeting barrier for the millionth time. But then we were hoping for that final improvement. I was so close to it. I could really get close to the Ghost for the first 2/3 of the lap. It was just that chicane. That was the bane of my life. I hated it. It was the worst thing in existence, and I just could not, for the life of me, do it. Apart from that lap was a small improvement to a slightly lower 0.4. A 56.7 was the fastest split I had done through the second split to this point. However, in the aim of trying to commit more speed on the exit, just overcorrected, and then boom, I am in the wall. So you can see there the frustration very much getting to me, but this was the best lap I managed. And it took me many retries. I mean, I'm not even going to count how many retries this took and how many miles I did in this car. But it wasn't less than 10. It was definitely more than 10. That's the only number I can say. Right, anyway, onto this lap. Carrying as much speed as we can. Getting a nice angle here, though, into the braking point for 2. And getting a decent run here. Off the brake. Off the power there, sorry. Getting some rotation. Carrying as much speed through here. Run the grass on the left. And slightly on the right. Commit to this left. And then back on the power as early as you dare. Running the curb on the exit. And I'm actually quicker than the Ghost. I've gained maybe a 10th or 2 on it. So I know that this is potentially a good lap. But this was the story of this time trial, really. Being actually pretty decent through sector 1 and 2, but then messing it all up in the final sector, bottling it very hard multiple times. And maybe this is a familiar story of you guys, I don't know. Maybe you're better than me and you have no idea what I'm talking about. Anyway, 56.7, this has got to be it. Come on, get those anchors on into the chicane. Through we go. On the exit, squirreling on the way up the hill, back down the other side, and finally the improvement came, and it's going to be a 15.394. I'm done, guys. I got the 0.3. I'm happy. 221st in the world. Whew. I mean, how these guys are getting low 14s, I just don't know. I'm within a second of the top 10. I think I can be happy with that. There it is, guys. 221st in the world. So it's not going to be me qualifying for this, but hopefully I should be at the event anyway. Kaz, please pay for my tickets again. But for those who are going to this event, hope to see you there. Good luck to everyone who's still going to try setting a time. But I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.